The next thing we do to get really clear-cut data and notes from our clients and to communicate with each other with trainer to client, let's say, is a rating of perceived exertion here. We use a 1 to 10 scale on this. And we use this to build on top of our quick and dirty notes that we talked about here, and even our scoring scale here within all the reps and sets that we're doing. So it's a way for me to understand what the difficulty level is for the person, and also the pain level. And sometimes is it, I'm trying to distinguish, is this a fatigue limitation, a pain limitation, or a strength limitation? Sometimes I keep it general and vague, and I'm just trying to figure out that person. So I can figure out their pain threshold. Some people hold pain very well, and they might be at a 10, and I can't tell that actually. They have such good poker face, but I'm not picking it up. Likewise, there's people who are on the flip side of that who really show pain elaborately, and they might be at, say, a 3, but they look like a 10, basically. So I've been surprised over and over and over, and my first goal with someone is to always learn their pain tolerance and their pain threshold so I can communicate with them and know when I need to call a set or when I can actually add some more intensity or load onto the bar there. So basically what we use this would be 5 is very light, so extremely light, like you're barely doing anything. 1 is literally floating on a cloud, basically it's super light and nothing. But 7 is where we start to get into work set territory. So 7 would be light to light medium, 8 would be medium to medium heavy, 9 would be heavy, and 10 would be a max, as if I actually had a gun to your head to make you lift that weight, and it took everything in your body to possibly lift that weight. So this would be an all-out max effort. It stops at 10. But we tend to typically keep our heaviest reps and sets. If you recall earlier to our sets across and ramp-up approach, these work sets here that you warmed up to is where this 9-ish / 8-ish world would be. And if you're hitting your rep maximum, you might be hitting your 10s in here. If you're hitting RPEs in these 1-2 sort of, or really these 1-2 sets, and the 8 or above, it's too heavy there at that point in time. That's where we like to say this set here should be about a 5. This set here should be about a 7 on the RPE scale. You might be at an 8 and then a 9, 8 to 9-ish, 8 to 9-ish, 8 to 9, 8 to 9, and so on. But you might get to that 10. The thing about 10s is everyone wants to be there and be perfect, but it's hard and unreasonable to maintain that level of intensity day in, day out. You break down and no one can live there. So 9s are a good average. We use this to figure out what the intensity is of that set so we know if it's an appropriate load or if that person can handle more, if we're overloading them too much. But what we're really doing is adding all these layers together. So if you come back here, as I showed you before, we had all of our quick and dirty notes. We gave them the score of A+, but we also know the RPE on a scale from 1 to 10, how hard was that set? And I use those words specifically. I may say how hard, how difficult, how heavy, how exhausting was it, things of that nature. But if I say how hard was that set on a scale from 1 to 10, well, they said that was a 9. I know that that's a good, hard, heavy work set. That's an appropriate intensity for them, which makes sense because they needed some assistance given with shaky form and they gave great effort. They just happened to keep A+ form wouldn't make sense on this if it got a little shaky, obviously, but the 9 RP would make sense and actually be consistent with that set. If I'm looking at something like this, it's arbitrary, it says 50 times 15, right now it means nothing. But if I add an RP of 5, I would know that, okay, that was a light set. Form, of course, probably didn't break down, or I would assume it didn't break down there. They can handle more weight. I'll go up next time, basically. So that's how we use the RP for, say, sets and reps. Again, these 7s to 10s are really where your work sets are going to live, and that's where progress lives also. If you're having RPs of, say, 6 or even 7 and lower on all of your hard, heavy work sets, you're holding yourself back, and you're really not going to get the results you're after with strength training or body composition change. So you got to understand what your appropriate intensity level is for the sets and reps. You can't just come in and go through the movement and expect to get any kind of progress. So to really make this more sophisticated and get the most you can out of this, these sorts of little basic pieces can be added together. And the better you can learn this and piggyback, and the better success you will get in the long term. And as you start to find more and more barriers and walls and plateaus, this is how you start to work your way through them to really fine-tune the programming in your training process. So we would actually start putting the quick and dirty notes together, the appropriate sets and rep schemes here, the form grading and RP, all to make this come to life. So good luck with that.